Hello, beautiful people. My name is Amanda Zitto. This is my beautiful Africa twin, and I'm on my third solo motorcycle trip across the U.S. and back. The mission is to visit every state in the lower 48 before I visit Alaska. I have 4 states left to go. In this episode, I visit one of the world's largest cave systems, eat pig brains, and I am reminded my weather window for getting home is closing quickly. Good morning, beautiful people from Greenville, South Carolina. Today we're headed to Kentucky. I had an incredible time at the BMW Performance Center and the US Riders Academy, and I wish that I could just turn around and take the intermediate training. But alas, we have miles to do and places to be, people to see, and we need to start heading home now. We're on the official turnaround point. We are headed west from here on out. Let's get on down the road. I immediately reached for a clutch that is not there on this motorcycle. Getting used to riding the twin again after being on the GS for 3 days is going to be interesting. Here we go. Hi, big baby. After I crossed into Kentucky, I made a small detour to ride up to an overlook at the Cumberland Gap National Historic Park, and the view was very worth it. Good morning, beautiful people, from our chaotic hotel room outside of Cave City. We're just a few miles from Mammoth Cave National Park. I got up this morning, had my hotel breakfast, did a little bit of work on the laptop, and booked my tickets ahead of time to get to do one of the Mammoth Cave tours. I do have lots of miles to do today. However, when one is this close to Mammoth Cave, one does not pass it up. So I booked my little tickets. It is a longish tour. It's going to be 2 hours. Yes, I'm going to get out late. Yes, it means I'm going to have to do miles in the dark. However, sometimes we make sacrifices so we can see pretty things in caves. Yes. Okay, we're going to get all this stuff packed up onto the bike and get moving.
Mammoth Cave National Park. This 53,000-acre wooded park is home to the world's longest cave. A collapsed passageway forms the natural entrance to Mammoth Cave in south-central Kentucky. People probably first used this entrance as early as 10,000 years ago. Tradition holds that pioneer settler John Houchins rediscovered Mammoth Cave in 1798 while bear hunting. Guided tours have entered here at what is known as the historic entrance since 1816. A labyrinth of more than 360 explored and mapped miles, Mammoth Cave is the largest recorded cave system. It is internationally recognized as both a World Heritage Site and a Biosphere Reserve, and is a host to a broad diversity of species in a complex ecosystem. Mammoth Cave National Park, with 52,830 acres, was established in 1941 to preserve the cave system and the scenic valleys of the Green and Nolan rivers.
All right, just got out of Mammoth Cave. I did the Domes and Dripstones tour, which was neat because you got to see the frozen Niagara at the end, which was by far the best part of the whole tour. And I'm glad that I did it, and I'm glad I did one of the guided tours with the ranger and everything. My thoughts are that if you are interested in history like me, I kind of wish that I had taken one of the other tours that focuses more on the history of the cave. I think the Domes and Dungeons tour is great for children like under the age of 13 who are still learning about geology and physics and those kinds of things. It feels really weird to be rating a national park tour. I really enjoyed it. I'm still really glad that I was here. Just now, having done it, I wish that I had time or opted for the history-focused tour instead. Do with that what you will. We're headed to Illinois next. I really want to eat at this restaurant called the Hilltop Inn. I've been recommended this place a bunch. I have high expectations. We'll see how it goes. Let's hit the road, shall we? The Hilltop Inn is one of the few places in the U.S. you can get a very unique kind of sandwich made of pork brains. Initial impressions. It doesn't really have a strong flavor. If anything, it's closer to chicken than beef, I would say. I'm gonna add the pickles. It has like a spongy texture on the inside. It's interesting, not offensive. Probably if you think about it too much, but otherwise not really. You know how when you deep fry anything, it kind of loses the essential flavor there? Like deep fried fish doesn't really have its own flavor. It tastes like the breading that it's surrounded in. That's kind of what I would describe this as. From the Hilltop Inn, I made my way to my campsite in the dark. One of the reasons I like camping on long trips like this isn't just because it's more affordable than hotel rooms, but also because I sleep better in my tent with my gear that smells like me. It also helps that my sleeping bag and sleeping mat are comfortable too. If you also want to be able to recreate a safe, comfy space, even when you're thousands of miles from home, I recommend checking out the gear on motocampnerd.com. Everything on the site is a high-quality, curated selection of gear that will fit on a motorcycle. Links for some of my favorite camping gear that I've used for the last 5 years are down in the description. Camp is set up. I'm gonna go to sleep now. Well, good morning, beautiful people. I believe it is day 29 of this solo motorcycle trip across the US on the Africa Twin, and I'm officially ready to go home. But we're in Illinois, and there's a bit of space between us and Oregon, so we still have a ways to go. The other thing I wanted to bring up here is that I understand that a lot of you live on the East Coast of the United States. And I have been hearing about how disappointed people are that I just cut across their state, or all I could do was touch it. And unfortunately, that's kind of the way that it goes when you travel all the way across the US. You can really only pick and choose a few things to do in that amount of time. And this trip, I really only had a certain amount of time to work with because I have to get back to Oregon. I have to get back to Montana before the snow happens, and it's the end of October, and the likelihood that I'm going to hit snow in Wyoming is very high. And yeah, even if I didn't do this trip in the fall and wasn't dealing with the weather window on the tail end of my trip, you can only do so much when you cross the country, and unless you decide to live off of your motorcycle full time. Because this trip is a little bit over a month, it sounds really ridiculous to say that I prioritized a handful of experiences that I wanted to have, and not I'm gonna do one big thing every single day. It's just not sustainable. You run out of energy really quickly. Anyway, that was more information than you probably wanted to hear. Speaking of things that I prioritized for this trip, I'm headed to Cahokia today, which I'm super, super excited about. So we're gonna get everything packed up. We have a short-ish day today, so I've been able to spend a little bit more time at camp this morning than I normally get. And we're gonna get going. Yeah! Goodbye, nice little campsite. Let's hit the road. Unfortunately, the interpretive center was closed for renovations when I came through, but it was still super surreal to be at the site of one of the largest pre-colonial cities in North America. Cahokia Mounds is a state historic site as well as a UNESCO World Heritage Site that protects the remains of the most sophisticated prehistoric native civilization north of Mexico. It covered an area of 6 square miles, including at least 120 mounds of different sizes and functions. It was occupied from 700 AD to around 1350. At least 5 large post-circle monuments were built at this location. The sun lines up with certain posts on the perimeter during the winter and summer solstices. Families lived in pole and thatch houses around the mounds. Ceremonial buildings and the homes of elites stood on top of the many platformed mounds. Good morning, beautiful people, at our KOA cabin. I believe we're at the St. Louis West / Route 66 KOA. I had a lovely stay here last night, and we're going to follow a little bit of Route 66 today. cue Editing Amanda to give you a little bit more information about the historic Route 66 while I pack up and get ready to head out.
Route 66 was the iconic route from Chicago to Santa Monica, California. It's known as the Mother Road and is 2,448 miles long. The road runs through 8 states and 3 time zones. Despite being decommissioned in 1985, after I-40 bypassed the last section of highway in 1984, it has been immortalized as the classic American road trip by books, music, and movies. During the 1930s, it was the primary route for the migration of farm workers from the Midwest to California.
I stopped and had lunch at this lovely diner where the waitress called me hun, and I wasn't mad about it. Also, I saw the square body and I had to stop and document it. It was important. One of the more well-known Route 66 attractions is Gary's Gay Parita, where I stopped to just get a few photos, but I ended up staying there for a couple of hours talking to the owner. He was the sweetest man. After our conversation about life, he gave me a list of some other Route 66 attractions that were on my way to my Airbnb for the night that I didn't have on my list. This might have been my most favorite stop. In 1925, Sidney Casey walked 55 miles to purchase the town of Spencer for $500. From 1926 until 1928, he constructed a general store, service station, cafe, and barbershop. Spencer was bypassed by Interstate 44 in 1961. All right, we stopped at Spencer Station, Missouri. Next on my cheat sheet is Lottie's. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be closed by the time I get there, but I'm going to go give it a look anyway. Lottie's was indeed closed, so I moved on to the next place on my list, Red Oak 2, which did not disappoint. Especially at sunset, the place looked amazing. This little town was created by artist Lowell Davis. He was born and raised 20 miles north of Carthage, Missouri, in a town known as Red Oak. After becoming an adult, Davis left Red Oak, and when he returned to his hometown after a number of years, he discovered it had become a ghost town. He bought buildings from Red Oak and moved them to his family's land in Carthage and gave them new life. Well, we have made it to my lovely little Airbnb here in Webb City, Missouri. It's a tiny house, so I have it all to myself. There's the bed and the living room and a full kitchen, sink, fridge, stove. Had I thought ahead of time, I would have got some stuff and I would have roasted some potatoes in the oven. And then the bathroom is behind me, and we're making some pesto pasta for dinner because I had some bits left over from my dinner last night. So it's just an easy, I already have the groceries, didn't have to go to the store. We're just going to have that. I also need to finish up that jar of pesto anyway because it's going to go bad tomorrow. When I rolled up and was unloading the bike, this gray little kitten came out of the woodwork and greeted me and hung out with me on the porch for a while. So that was a lovely welcome. And I just had the nicest time on Route 66 today. I did have to slog some freeway miles, but when I got off to go to Gary's Gay Burrito, which is probably the highlight of my day right now, because I had the longest but nicest conversation with the gentleman who runs that place with his wife, and it was exactly what I needed. It was very nice. And then he gave me this wonderful list of other places to go to. It was so kind of him. And it was just my favorite part of the day. And now I'm going to make dinner and take a shower and enjoy being in a tiny house for the night. Oh my god, it's so nice to be on a couch. Look at me eating out a bowl instead of my pot like a normal human. Weird. Good morning, beautiful people, from our little Airbnb in Webb City, Missouri, or should I say Missouri, as another gentleman called it yesterday that I was speaking to. We got almost everything packed on the bike. We just have a little bit left to go and put gear on. I was checking the weather to see how many layers I should put on because it's very humid and warm here. However, we're headed to Kansas today, which is the second to last state that I have to hit in order to have visited all of the states in the lower 48, so we're super close to my goal. However, it's snowing in Montana. When I checked the weather for Kansas, which is where I'm going, there's a freeze warning. Yep. Here we go. All right, everything is packed. We'll see if that's rain or just overcast. We're a little bit farther into Kansas now, and it has officially dropped 20 degrees from what it was when I left the Airbnb just not even a whole hour ago. So we're going to put our layers on now. My introduction to Kansas was a little gray, a bit rainy, and a little cold. But I did find some good food. It also had the benefit of being a warm escape from the weather. Oh, and I also rolled over 30,000 miles on the Africa Twin. It seemed fitting that this happened in the absolute middle of nowhere. Look, this one has a barbecue and everything attached to it. Fancy. Cute. Ooh, like a full-on door in this one. An outdoor fridge. Ooh. Oh my god, and the heat. Wow. Not gonna lie. Pretty. Probably the fanciest KOA cabin I've stayed in this whole trip. With built-in heat and all the decorations, proper lighting. I approve, Kansas. Well done. Editing Amanda here to say this is still the best KOA that I have ever stayed at. Still 10 out of 10. Highly recommend. After I made dinner, I got nice and cozy in my super warm cabin. I had no idea the next day was going to be one of the coldest of this entire trip. But that is a story for next time. I don't think a lot of people talk about that point in a trip where you're just ready to be home, because I think that there's like this weird blasphemy in the motorcycle community that, well, don't you just want to be able to travel on the bike forever? And my response to that is, I like being home. I like traveling. I love being on the bike. I love traveling. But I also like being home. And you can call it blasphemous if you want. Question for my end screen crew: would you try pork brain sandwiches? I'll see you guys later. This is my custom-made hat carrier. There's one strap that goes all the way around the bottom of the crown, and then a cross that kind of goes over the top of the hat to keep it secure. And then I have 4 points of contact, which are just clips. And this is her mounted on my duffel. So there's 4 points of contact. So there's a strap that attached to all the D-rings on my duffel, and then the clips clip in here. So it's super easy to remove. You can see on the back. And then I have a security little cinch here that's just a regular old hat clip you can get off of Amazon. But so far, my contraption alone have kept it nice and safe. I've done highway speeds, crosswinds, everything. She's surviving really well.